Hello folks, this is Steve AB4L. Nothing in this episode is a promotion nor is it a recommendation. And I've got my window open, so you may hear some traffic. It's Friday night, the 27th of September 2024. You don't have to go any further than just the YouTube homepage to see what the big news is about North Carolina. Covering flooding across the Tri-Cities. You can see there's a lot of stuff underwater. Helene latest, what to expect in North Carolina now that the worst is over. WFMY, that's in Greensboro, 30 miles north. And this one over here, can you see the house? Can you see the house in that one? That house is off its foundation, and actually if you watch the sequence you see the house break up. It's nowhere near its original location, and it finally hit something, a big tree, and it broke. Drone footage shows much of the downtown Newport underwater. I think that's in Tennessee. It's northwest of our far west, and there's a dam up there that broke in North Carolina that feeds the river to that place. Lake Lure Dam is in danger of breaking. That's a major dam also in our western counties of North Carolina in the Great Smoky Mountains. Now a lot of this really hits home because years ago I used to work as a part-time technician up on Mount Mitchell. I used to go up there in the winter with keys, go up the parkway from Asheville. See, we're Asheboro. They're named after the same guy. Asheville. I had keys to get through the gate because the Blue Ridge Parkway would be closed in the winter, and then get into the Mount Mitchell Park to download data from our instrumentation, where the deer wouldn't get out of the road. What are you doing here? But I've gone up there at all times of the year and seen torrential rains also. And I've fished all up there, all over, because I've been to all 100 counties in North Carolina. And I don't mean on the interstate. I'm talking about the back roads. I got an email from a friend of mine, from a boyhood friend up north, and he was complaining that it's getting cool and it's dry. It was so funny to get an email this morning complaining about, essentially saying no rain. Now, I have the window open. The air, it's 81 in here from the breeze coming in. I normally go to bed around 5 a.m. I closed the window just this early this morning at about 4 a.m. I closed the windows. There was no rain. We had rain earlier, there's sprinkling. But when I made my bathroom trips later in the morning and I looked out, big winds, squall, and all of that. So we also got some of it from Helene. And I sent my friend a couple of links. Now, I've shown you this facility, United States Geological Survey, river gauges. This is a deep river 2 miles down here. Actually, the gauge is in Ramseur 4 miles from here. This is the last 7 days. When I recorded this particular link and sent that email, it was about here. Now, this is 4 miles away. It's the Deep River. At the current moment, the height at the current moment, oh, excuse me, at 4:15, oh, very good, at 4:15 p.m. this afternoon, 7 hours ago, the river was at 7 feet, 7.27 feet. Now, do you remember the video I showed you when Tropical Storm Debbie came through? And how this river gauge was up so high, they had colored bands telling us that it's close to really getting bad. And I took you on a video tour along the river, the bridges, and how you had to splash through the water to get up onto the bridge of Franklinville. And it was not even quite as high as the storm in, was it January? I did videos on that. And that also, for this stream gauge, river gauge, this is the U.S. Geological Survey. There's a radio transmitter. It's sending the data continuously up to the satellites and then down to where it's collected in the computer center. So this is midnight September today, midnight yesterday, midnight the day before. So we were starting to get the rains, and then we had the rain squalls yesterday, and then it tapered off some. And then this morning, right, I told you this is Helene. Here. Oh, it's all the way up to 7 feet. You mean it didn't go up to 18 feet like Debbie did? But Debbie came over us. Debbie came over us. Helene didn't. Helene hit 100 miles that way. Yeah, that's right. If you follow 64 and go west about 100 miles, now I'm going to show you what that looks like. Now remember I mentioned Asheville. So we look at this again, and we take that link, and we open it. Do you notice the colors? Now when Debbie came through here, now the color bands are according to the river and its surroundings as to what constitutes dangerous levels. Got that? When Debbie came through, the peak for the Ramseur gauge got into not this orange one, but up in here, this pinkish one. And in Franklinville, on one side it's bedrock, the river's down to bedrock, and it's kind of like solid rock with overfill on it on one side, but the other side is a gradual pan going up, and then up higher is Main Street. Why'd they build Main Street way up there? Why did they build Main Street way up there in Franklinville? Because they knew it was above the 100-year reoccurrence type of river flooding. There used to be a railroad track. It wasn't up quite that high. I'm bringing this out for a reason. Now the railroad bed was long since torn up, but it used to go Cedar Falls, Franklinville, Ramseur, ended at Ramseur. There was a round table. Now that's a walking path, but it used to be a railroad. I'm mentioning these features for a reason, because if you've been watching, I'm assuming you know the videos I'm talking about. This is the French Broad River. I've fished in this. The French Broad River at Asheville. Now, if I move this line, the river height was 1.52 feet on September 21st. September 21st is the beginning of this 7-day chart. Let's take it what the peak was. 24.60 feet, September 27th, that's today at 5 p.m. this afternoon, Eastern Daylight Time. 24 feet. Keep that number in mind. And it seems that now that the storm is dissipated, you see how it built up? You see the flooding, the build-up coming up. Now you have to understand, you'll understand this when you see the picture. We're talking about up in the mountains. We're talking about Asheville is about 2,500 feet higher than where I am. I know these numbers because I used to go up there all the time. Mount Mitchell's at 6,000 feet. I've come down from Mount Mitchell at 6,840, whatever feet it is. I've driven down from there where it was snowing up there, and when I get down below a certain 3,000 feet getting down on the way to Asheville, it turned to rain. It wasn't snowing anymore. Which meant that the snow that was falling from above went into a warm air zone in the cup and melted, and it turned to rain. All right. Now, when you look at these gauge tables, if you scroll down, they show you a map, and they're showing you where the active monitoring locations are. Those are the red dots. And the one we're interested in is the one that's the blue teardrop. And it's just north of Asheville City. Okay? There's an interstate highway going up. There's Interstate 40 going past Asheville. There's a loop around it, 240. Okay? And the Interstate 26 is north-south. Keep that in mind because we're going to see a hint of it. Now, down here, it's location metadata. If you want to know exactly where that gauge is, it's the decimal latitude, decimal longitude, 35.608888 and minus 82.5780. Okay? And I have it right here. Let's go take a look at it. I love Google Maps and Google Street View. I'm not promoting them. Can you see the river? That's the... Now, take a look at this right there. This is where the gauge is. The gauge is at this end of the bridge going across the river. If you see this loop here, that tells me that once you get across the river, it's a climb. And they had to cut the road in the face of the climb. You follow that? Remember, we're up in the mountains. Asheville may only be at 3,000 something feet, and the mountains go another 3,000 feet, but they're at the foot of the mountains. The gauge is at a bridge on a main river, and I want you to notice that the blue purse, which is a business advertisement, is called the French Broad Outfitters. What's an outfitter? They sell sports equipment for the river, canoes, kayaks, and other things, fishing rods, etc. Keep that in mind. I pointed it out. It's on the map. Now look at here in this district here. 1899 Right Inn and Carriage House. The Montford Area Historic District. Now I can tell you that this suggests that it's at a higher elevation than along the river. Okay? And, oh, I said a moment ago that this curvature like this says to get up to this area, you had to climb a hill. And it was like this, so they had to do that. Now, let's go there. Flood warning, Buncombe County. Light traffic in the area. Everybody stay home. It's Friday night, folks. Here's the French Broad Outfitters Outdoor Sports Store. The gauge is about here, but let's click right there on that bridge. Why don't we take a look at it on the ground? There's the river. Let's get rid of the imagery. There's the river. Now take a look at the surrounding hills. Notice that the bridge appears to be going uphill. What did I say was true about the other side? This is October 2023. Oh, it's about 12 months ago, around this time. It's about 12 months ago, around this time. That's what it looked like. What a nice coincidence. Notice these buildings along the river. Notice these business buildings along the river. Notice that the surrounding area is up on the hills. See, I'm just repeating what I said to you. Now let's take a look. There's the gauge. That thing right there. There's the gauge. There's the solar panel to power it. And that it's accessible for somebody to walk in there. I know it's the gauge and not something else because there's no river lock or something that this would be for. This is the gauge. Now, what's this? What are these stairs over here? What did I tell you was in this building? That's the outfitters. And why would they have built these stairs here down to the river? They sell kayaks, they sell, you got it? They want to be able to launch them. Because this is also where you can come to launch into the river, go fishing or whatever it is. Look at how nice it looks. It's not particularly deep because we can see some of the rock currents here, right? Not particularly deep. Now let me ask you something. Let's assume that the river's down like it was a week ago and the gauge is reading like 2 feet. How many feet do you think it is coming up this embankment? What would you guess? Maybe as much as 20 feet? Maybe as much as 20 feet? What do you think? Currently, it's at 22.31 inches and it peaked at 24.5 feet. That store is underwater. The display floor inside is underwater. If those trucks are parked there, they're going to have them worked on. But they probably moved them. Because, now let's go over here. Here's the railroad, which follows the river. Why would it follow the river? For the same reason that followed the deep river down along here too. Because it was a shelf with bedrock under it. It was carved out already. All they had to do was clear some of the rocks and get rid of the trees to put the bed down. Same thing. No different than the deep river. We're on the Piedmont, but our deep river is down to the bedrock. That French Broad River is down to the bedrock in this area. The river formed in, you got it? How many millions of years? So if you were able to come with a boat, you would have to wade into the store to buy something right now. I guarantee. Look at the soil here. Do you think they've been flooded before? I do. Now, this is for the railroad. This thing over here is for the railroad. Why? Because the railroad tracks cross the road, right? You see the gate? Now, can you see the road up there? Can you see the road up here? Why didn't they just build it straight up? Well, what they're doing is they're following the contour to make the easiest way to do it. We're down in a bowl. If you look at this, let's go down the road. Now, bear with me. Pay attention to what's along the river, this road on the left side. This is called Riverside Drive. Now take a look at the right side. You see that road up there? I don't know why they did that. What's on the left side? Now it looks like it's level, but the river's just beyond the end of what you can see there, and you can see how high the hills are on the other side. Okay? So let's just go down the road for a while. Let's take a look at the quality of the buildings here. Let's look at the way the pavement looks from occasional flooding. Now we got a big warehouse. There's something over here on the right side. There's a lot of people at this business here on the left. Then we've got some kind of modern building. It's Go Store It. So that must be a storage building. I wonder how flooded out that is. There's a big glass entranceway here, but it's a long building, so it's probably involved. Wait a minute, maybe it'll tell us. Oh, the French Broad Chocolate Factory and Sustainable Chocolate Treats. Let's keep going. Now you can go up the hill or you can continue along the river. Let's continue along the river. This view is June of 2023. That's why the trees changed. And you can see how every now and then there's a road that goes up the hill. So the people up the hill, their houses are safe. But anybody who's down here, do you see the quality of the siding? Do you think it's because it's old, or do you think it's been flooded before? What do you think? And that place is down. Okay, so now the road is going a little higher. The railroad tracks are lower. And there's a factory here. and there's a lawn, but you see the trees there? Now think about this. This is a flat pan, kind of like Riverside Park in Franklinville. And then there's a drop off like that, and there's the river at that tree line. These people are underwater right now. My contention is they're not really quite high enough for the current flood level of today. But usually, over 100 years, it wouldn't quite reach these people, because what we know is they're down a little lower, but this is gradually, this road is up on the bank, higher on the bank for some reason. There's the railroad. When do you think that railroad was built? I can tell you, before the Civil War. That line, not all those tracks, but that line was built before the Civil War. One of the important interior developments in the Piedmont and down in that, on the way to that area, was the first railroad subscription campaign. People contributing to buy into building a railroad into western North Carolina. Highway historical markers. You learn a lot of things. Oh, look at what they've got here next to the railroad tracks. Is that that's not a lumber yard, or is it? If some of that's underwater, that's going to be too bad, don't you think? There's a lot of stock there, don't you see? In the time I've been in North Carolina, Princeville, North Carolina area, there's an old house way up on a hill. And we had a hurricane come through that had a once in 100-year flood level that almost reached that old house, but flooded out Princeville completely. So you can see what kind of businesses are along the highway. And what we know is, now think about it, you see somebody's built their house up here, they're a little safer, but what we know is that if we were to go up the hill behind it, that's a higher priced residential area. This is not so expensive, which is why these are built along the river. And why are the costs of the land and the rents lower along the river, as opposed to trying to build them at higher elevations in another part of Asheville, aside from zoning? Didn't you ever think of things like this? Outsider Brewing Company. I wonder if we could find their brand. They got a lot of good reviews. They must make real good beer. Now, there's the interstate. Can you see it? Do you notice how high up it is? I wonder why. Now, why didn't they build it down by the river? Why didn't they just take over this roadbed and build the interstate there? Oh, no, that wouldn't have been smart, would it? And by the way, some of our interstate sections are closed from mudslides right now. Have I ever been out there when I was working in the Mount Mitchell thing and gone to the edge of our border on 40 where the whole mountainside collapsed and took the road out with it down into the gully below? Yes. And it was right in front of the tunnel that goes through the mountain. That section was closed for quite a while so that they could reconstruct it. That's the way it is in the mountains, folks. And why did that stuff collapse like that? Now, in a way, it's related to what we're talking about here. Well, there was a winter storm, a lot of rain that soaked into all the cracks, and then we had a terrible ice storm that took down a third of the trees. And that water that was in all the cracks of that big face began expanding, and something had to give, and there was a big landslide of all the rock. Not dirt, rock. big boulders, took out 40, took it out, everything. I saw it. No, I wasn't there when it happened. I went to see it. I told you I was going up there in the winter. So it's beautiful along here, but it's all kind of, and there's some rail cars, right? And it's all industrial. I want to show you that these people to the right are not underwater. They might be tippy-toe in the water like these people right here. This guy here, oh, Riverside Rhapsody Beer Company. Oh, is there a trend along the river here? Is this where people would come in the summer in an evening or hot evening and come out and have a drink? I wonder. Now, I'm just showing you this because the area is beautiful, and I wanted to get this far. That yard is underwater because, like I showed you before, you see how flat it is? It's just like in Franklinville. And just beyond it is the bank down to the actual where the river usually is. Now, this is getting better. We can see that it's going up a little bit. The road is going up. And we're starting to, now we're looking down. Now, see the trucks. Now, can you see over here? You see, you can't see. I can't make this picture bigger. I don't believe I can make this picture bigger. I can see the river. Pause. I'm back. You see, I use an alarm clock radio to remind me when to have my supper and take my evening meds. This roadway is probably getting to be, it's midnight. Yep, it's midnight. One minute after. So I've taken you on an excursion along the river, and all along we see the same thing. The flat out to there, and then over here we see a tree line, and just beyond that is the drop down to the river. But I guess there are no more bridges. See, we're climbing now. See how far down the river? These people are safe. These people are safe. Isn't it interesting that there's no break in the tree line? This is really, all along here is just like Franklinville. It really is. Look at all these businesses. Now these are probably getting to be, oh, but well, look, oh, perfect. There we go. Can you see the river right there? Can you see the river right there? It's right there. It's not that far down from where we're standing. The water is definitely up to here. I'm not laughing at these people. I'm trying to convey to you how many people and how many businesses are going to be filing for insurance if they have flood insurance, that are going to have to recover from what Helene did. Am I laughing at it? No, as a matter of fact, this is awful. What has happened along here is awful because it's a once in 100-year level. Now we're going to take the French Broad River and we're going to look at it over 1 year. All of those businesses along the river that we've been looking at feel that they're safe because they're probably at worst in this zone right here. And that the change in color here, and this is the same coloring as for Franklinville. This is at this level you saw with Diane, not Diane, Debbie, that it was getting up to this transition line. If that was happening down here, up this high, it literally would be reaching Main Street in Franklinville. It would be getting up to Main Street. Trying to, all along the river right now, they're underwater in the area that I showed you. And it isn't just Asheville. It's every place in western North Carolina, because that whole area is basically a series of mountains of one level or another. The Great Smokies are beautiful. And the storm has also done the same kind of damage into our adjacent states, north of North Carolina to Tennessee and to the west. And in South Carolina, just over our southern border. Now you notice I haven't talked about Florida. They got hit right there at the panhandle. What was it when it came ashore? 135-mile-an-hour winds. Which way would you prefer to have it? 135-mile-an-hour winds, or what's happening here? Either way, the costs are huge. My hearts go with these people. I've been there and I can visualize it. Steve AB4L. Thank you, Helene. Saying see you in 73. Folks, I'm doing an addendum. Look at this. The YouTube is full of these television station news videos. This one is WLOS News 13, and this was posted 4 hours ago. Right now, it's 3 a.m., but you can see that there's daylight, so this was a late afternoon yesterday. Now, what you're seeing is what the narration is. Can see the French Broad River flooding New Belgium and flowing, and we can see this industrial plant is underwater. Well, I went to Google Maps and I searched for New Belgium, Asheville, and it came up with New Belgium Brewing Company. And there's the red balloon. And you see this stuff right here? That's this. This brewing company is underwater. And there it is on the map, and here's the French Broad River. Now watch. Let's relate it to my main section. We head north. We're looking for a bridge. We're heading north. Notice all this stuff along the river below the highway here. We're headed north. We haven't gone that far. 2 miles maybe? And here's the bridge. And if we duck in a little closer, we can see the outfitter, and you see the steps going down into the river, and this is where we took the look around for the start of my video. And there's the river gauge. I said that everything here and upstream, all these plants are all underwater. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Steve A. My heart goes out for all of those folks, both owners and the people who work there and depend on them. Saying see you in 73.